We got UFC Vegas 113, Bautista versus Oliveira, and this is going to be my full card breakdown and predictions. Let's rock and roll right into this thing. First fight of the night, we got Priscila Cachoeira versus Klaudia Sygula. So we got the technical striker in Klaudia Sygula, who has shown some improvements in her ground game, versus the brawler who just will move forward and throw massive shots and apply a tremendous amount of pressure. I feel like this is one of those scenarios where the technical fighter is going to crumble. I am picking Priscila Cachoeira to win this fight by a knockout in the second round, and here's why. Normally, I would go with the more technical fighter, right? Klaudia Sygula, she is the more technical overall fighter. She's known for her striking. She's got good combinations from the outside, some slappy leg kicks that she can throw in there, and maybe she does go in here and outstrike Priscila Cachoeira for 15 minutes. And I like in the last performance from Klaudia, we saw her take down Irina Alekseeva, beat her up on the ground, win some minutes on the floor, but I just don't know if she has enough danger to trouble Priscila, right? And if you don't have crazy power in your hands or you don't have a really good ground game, I just don't know that you're beating Priscila Cachoeira, right? Look who Priscilla's losing to. She's getting subbed by Miranda Maverick, who's a way better grappler than Klaudia. Losing to Jasmine Jasdavicius by submission. Jasmine's a way better grappler than Klaudia Sygula. And Jocelyn Edwards, she's a much better striker than Klaudia that actually has some pop in her shots, right? And we just saw what she did not that long ago to Josanne Nunes, right? So if she gets in your face and starts to let these big power shots fly, she can knock anybody in this weight class out. And I think it's just going to be a matter of time as she starts to move forward, starts to apply that pressure on Klaudia. I think she's going to wear her down. She's going to tire her out with that forward pressure. And I think she's going to start to land some of those big shots and eventually get Klaudia out of there. It's just one of those scenarios where I think Klaudia is the more technical fighter, but Priscila, she's been around the block, man. She's 37 years of age. She's been in the UFC for a while. She's very experienced. I think her power is going to be the difference in this fight. I know Priscila, her striking defense is really bad. Zombie girl just moves forward, eats a bunch of shots, no head movement, throws caution to the wind. Sometimes, especially in WMMA, that is enough to get it done. She is a mean fighter. She's going to move forward, looking to hunt down Klaudia. Well, I think Klaudia is going to try to just stick and move and play this real smart game. I don't know if that is going to work for 15 minutes against Priscila. Maybe Sygula's ground game has gotten so much better to where she could take her down and control her. I'm just not so sure about that in this fight. I'm going to go with the power and the marauder in Priscila to get this one done by a round 2 knockout. Next, we got a good one here. We got Muin Gafurov versus Jakub Wiklacz. This is a good fight. This is one that I've went back and forth on because I've played with the idea of, look, I think Gafurov is clearly the better striker here. He's got good power on the feet, solid kicks, throws kind of these wild boxing combinations, moves really well, likes to pressure and get in your face. And I think that serves him very well in a matchup where Jakub Wiklacz is going to want to get this fight to the floor, right? If you can pressure the grappler, put them on your heels, that typically will bode well for you if you're the striker, right? And I think Gafurov, while he's got solid wrestling and he's got a pretty good ground game, he's not going to want to be messing around on the ground with Jakub Wiklacz because what we've seen from Jakub since coming into the UFC, I mean, over in KSW, he was submitting everybody. This dude's jiu-jitsu is really, really good, man. And you got to see it in his debut. This was a split decision win over Patchy Mix, and I kind of thought Patchy Mix won that fight, right? But either way, it was very close. It wasn't the greatest fight. But Wiklacz, his jiu-jitsu is very, very good. And I know Patchy Mix was a huge disappointment in the UFC, but he's got a solid ground game, especially when it comes to the jiu-jitsu. And Wiklacz was having a lot of moments on the ground. He works that butterfly guard really, really well. He's very dynamic on the ground. But his striking, it worries me a little bit. And in this fight, Gafurov, to me, he has the clear advantage on the feet. And I know that he lost to John Castaneda, got subbed by Said Nurmagomedov, which is concerning because Said is more of a striker, right? He caught him in that, that guillotine choke. But since then, right, goes out there and beats Cong and then is coming off of probably the best win of his career over Rinya Nakamura to where he went out there and beat the brakes off of him, right? Nakamura, he's known for his grappling, right? Predominantly a wrestler, got some, solid striking on the feet, and Gafurov just beat him up. And I feel like in this fight, if Gafurov does not get into some of these, hairy moments on the ground and kind of get into these entanglements with Wiklacz, I think he's just the better fighter. I think he's the better fighter. But again, we've seen Gafurov put his head in some bad spots, man, where he shoots in for takedowns, leaves his head on the outside hip. That is going to be a problem if you do that against Jakub Wiklacz. So I think if Wiklacz wins this fight, I think he ends up submitting Gafurov. So if Wiklacz wins, I think it's by submission, but I'm going to side with Gafurov in this fight to win by a decision. I think he's going to put some pressure on Wiklacz, because while Wiklacz was able to beat Patchy Mix, we saw how bad Patchy is on the feet. There's really no threat on the feet from Patchy Mix, where with Gafurov, there is very much going to be a threat on the feet. While he's not this crazy knockout artist, he still has power. He applies really good pressures. 29 years of age. Both guys are 29, right? And Wiklacz is going to have a couple-inch reach advantage. I just don't really like the striking that I've seen from Wiklacz. He throws these good straight combinations down the middle, mixes in some kicks, but he is more of a grappler. And I think if he can force these entanglements and create these scrambles, that is going to bode well for Wiklacz in this fight. So if he could get the fight in his world, I definitely think Wiklacz can get it done. His jiu-jitsu is really, really good. He's got a lot of great submissions in his arsenal, but I think there's a clear edge on the feet to Gafurov. Gafurov is not a scrub on the ground. As long as he stays safe from the submission game of Wiklacz, I think Gafurov outstrikes him, outscores him on the feet to win a decision. This is a really good fight. Two good prospects in the bantamweight division. I'll side with Gafurov in a close one here. Next, we got Cong Wang versus Eduarda Moura, a.k.a. Bang Bang Wang. That's what I call her. B squared Wang, man. I'm a big fan of Bang Bang Wang. And ever since she came into the UFC, we've seen that she's one of the better strikers in all of WMMA, right? And I like what we've seen from her, right? Comes off of the road to the UFC, right? Got the submission win, right? Over Paula Luna. Then she comes out and knocks out Victoria Leonardo with a nasty right hand. Then she suffers her first loss, gets rocked on the feet by Gabriela Fernandez, which then leads to her getting submitted, and then back-to-back wins over Bruna Silva and Ariana Lipski de Silva. There's no question in my mind that Bang Bang Wang is by far the better striker in this matchup. But Eduarda Moura, she has shown that she's pretty good, right? She's durable. Her striking is solid on the feet, and she has a pretty good ground game, and that's what we've seen, right? Comes in on the Contender Series, gets the submission win over Silva, right? Gets the ground and pound finish over Ruiz, and then did lose to Denise Gomes. But overall, right, beats Veronica Hardy, beats Lauren Murphy. She's shown that her striking, I think, is improving. And I think she's okay on the feet. She's not a better striker than Bang Bang Wang. And I think if she's going to move forward and try to press the action with the takedowns, we have seen that Wang's takedown defense is getting better and better and better. And while I keep picking Wang to get a KO, she has not gotten one. And in this fight, maybe she gets one in the later rounds. Maybe she's able to catch Moura with a shot. But I'm going to say that she gets this thing done by a decision. I think that she's going to do enough to stop the takedowns, keep the fight on the feet. And we've seen from Wang, like, that long, extensive kickboxing background. She's got a really good jab. She mixes her shots up really well, attacks the lead leg. She is clearly the better striker in this matchup. The power is on her side. The precision is on her side. The thing that worries me is the ground game, because Moura does have a good ground game, and she's got a solid submission game. So if Moura can get the fight to the floor, win minutes, control, Wang, maybe eventually get to some sort of submission, she could definitely get it done. But I think it stays on the feet. I think Cong is going to be able to stuff the takedowns, land the better shots, tune her up on the feet. I'm going with Bang Bang Wang once again to get this one done by a decision. I could possibly see a late round TKO if she is able to really kind of discourage Moura by stuffing the takedowns, draining the gas tank, ripping good shots to the body like she normally does. There's just a big difference in the striking. Now, I will say this. I worry a little bit about Wang's defense, right? We've seen her get clipped with some shots, especially in that Gabriela Fernandez fight. Now, I think Gabriela is a better striker than Eduarda Moura, but we've seen Wang, she gets rung with some shots at times. So she's got to be very careful in this fight, because to me, Moura has the edge on the ground. She has the submission threat, but I think on the feet, there's a pretty big advantage on the side of Wang. She's going to put that pressure on her, get the jab busy. I think Wang gets this thing done by unanimous decision. Next, we got Said Nurmagomedov versus Javid Basharat. This is a good fight. This is a really good fight. And I've went back and forth a lot on this one here, because in some moments I could see Said getting this done, right? Because I think in the first round, he's one of the most dangerous guys in this weight class in round number one. He's an explosive striker, very, very dynamic, throws wild spinning attacks, flying knees, wild kicks, and he's got a ton of speed. But after that first round, there's this huge drop-off in energy. There's this huge drop-off in explosiveness. There's this huge drop-off in a threat. And then on the other side, you have Javid Basharat, who he's not the most dangerous guy, right? And for all 15 minutes, he's not that dangerous, right? At least on the feet. He's more of a pick-and-poke style of striker at range, right? We'll mix in some of those little front kicks up the middle, attack the lead leg, fight behind, long, straight boxing combos. I've had a hard time picking this one, man, because I think Saeed, he might put Javid in some trouble early in this fight. I think he's going to hurt him in the first round, but it's going to be a matter of if Basharat can survive. And I'm going to say that he does. And I'm going to say that we're going to have a close second round, and I think Basharat is going to win round number 3. So I think it's ultimately going to come down to who wins round number 2. And I'm going to pick Basharat to get this thing done by a decision. I just can't trust the gas tank of Saeed Nurmagomedov. But I will say this, if someone's finishing this fight, I would think that it would be Saeed landing some sort of big knockout shot. But we have seen from Basharat, his ground game is pretty good, right? And I think he's going to look to lean on it in this fight, right? He beat Tony Gravely by decision, right? Well, that's what we've seen throughout his career, right? He loses to Ayman Zahabi by submission or by decision, but we've seen Zahabi's really good, right? And then coming off, that brutal KO loss to Ricky Simone, and not the greatest look. Who does Ricky Simone really KO? Right, so that to me is a little bit concerning. If you're getting starched by Ricky Simone, and I know Ricky Simone does have some power, and he's got the threat of the takedown. I understand all that. But Saeed Nurmagomedov, to me, is a much better striker than Ricky Simone. He's a lot more dynamic. He's very fast and very explosive. But what we've seen from Saeed is just kind of hit or miss, right? Loses to Jonathan Martinez, but he's really good. The leg kick king, right? Gets the sub against Gafurov, who's also on this card with the guillotine, right? Loses to Vinny Oliveira, who's very good. And then loses to Bryce Mitchell, who was a featherweight coming down to bantamweight, so he just got kind of dominated on the ground and landed some good shots early. So I expect Saeed to land some big shots early, maybe put Basharat in some trouble. But I think Basharat is going to be able to kind of put the points on the board with the striking, maybe even mix in some takedowns as the fight starts to play out, win some minutes there. I'm going to side with Basharat here with the more well-rounded skill set. I know Saeed is very explosive on the feet, but his gas tank has continued to be a problem. So if he can sort that out all of a sudden and his gas tank holds up, I actually think Saeed will win this fight. But given what we've seen with that gas tank, I think it might get him in some trouble here because Basharat's not going to slow down. He'll keep the volume from the outside going. He can mix in the takedowns, does have a submission threat as well. I'm going to side with Basharat to get this one done by a really close decision. Wouldn't be surprised if this is a split decision. I think Saeed wins round 1. Round 2 is going to be a close one that goes to Basharat, and then Basharat will win round 3. I think it's a close one. Really good fight, man. Next, we got Bruna Brasil versus Ketlen Souza. I'm going to side with Ketlen Souza in this fight, and I think she gets it done by a decision. For me, it just comes down to the fact that I think Souza she's just the more brute force here. I know Bruna Silva, she has these moments where she's sticking and moving from the outside, mixing in some grappling. I just don't really know that outside of being, kind of rangy from the outside, slamming body kicks from range, beating up the lead leg, throwing those long straight combos down the middle, I don't know that she's better than Souza, right? That's what we've seen from Bruna Silva throughout her career, right? Yes, she beat Shauna Bannon, who's not that good, right? Loses to Loma Lukboom, who's got, really solid Muay Thai striking. Beats Molly McCann, but again, and then loses to Cong Wang, and then is coming off of a win over Ming Shi. But I just haven't been wowed with Bruna Silva. You don't really necessarily feel like there's a danger factor here. And I feel like with Ketlen Souza, while she hasn't been knocking everybody out, right, got subbed by, Corinne Silva. We saw in the man fight, she will walk you down, put that pressure on you, start landing some big shots with the hands, start letting the leg kicks go. And we saw that when she finished Yasmin with a rear naked choke, right, and loses to Angela Hill by a close split decision. But again, Silva, she's an OG, or Hill, she's been around for forever. Right? The OG can put the volume out there, finds a way to take advantage of these prospects and kind of run the numbers up on you, and just Angela Hill never stops. Keeps moving forward, keeps throwing shots, and then she loses a close one to Piera Rodriguez. I just think this comes down to the fact that Souza's going to march her down, let the bigger shots go, is going to land more damaging shots, and I think that that's what it's going to come down to. Maybe Brazil, outstrikes her from range, racks up the totals, outstrikes her in terms of the numbers, but I think Souza's going to land the more damaging shots, and I don't think that Bruna Brazil's ground game is that much better than Souza's. I think Souza's more dangerous. I think she's going to put the pressure on her, let the combinations fly, attack the lead leg. I'm going to go with Ketlen Souza to get this one done. But if Bruna wins, she mixes in some timely grappling, sticks and moves from the outside, gets the long-range weapons going. But I'm going to side with the more powerful hitter here in Souza, who I think is going to cut the cage off well, put the pressure on her, and land the more damaging shots. Next, we got Alex Morono versus Daniil Donchenko. I'm very high on Daniil Donchenko. He's someone that I had in my prospects video to keep an eye on, or Dark Horse video, one of those videos I made, and I was talking about Daniil Donchenko. Coming off of the Ultimate Fighter, he reminds me a lot of Rafael Fiziev. Now, very different as well, right? He's got that Muay Thai style of striking, very explosive, great in and out movement, nasty kicks, really good elbows and knees in close, and he's actually shown that his ground game's pretty good as well. Right, he's only 24 years of age, man. And in the finale against Rodrigo Cezinado, who on the, tough, he's shown that he's got good Muay Thai as well, a solid ground game. And Daniil just ran him over, just absolutely destroyed him. And the fight before that, I mean, before the UFC on the Ultimate Fighter, like he is such an impressive striker. Such an impressive striker. And I feel like this is more about the fact that he's 24 years of age, an explosive striker on the feet, and Alex Morono is just not dangerous. He's not dangerous whatsoever. He's 35 years of age, 24-12, right? He's been around for forever. He's been in the UFC for a really long time. But look at what we've seen recently, right? Loses to Joaquin Buckley 2 years ago, but that's Buckley, who's a dangerous guy, right? Beats Court McGee, but that's an older Court McGee who's not that dangerous, right? Loses to Nico Price by decision. Nico Price, right? Split decision loss to D-Rod. Gets brutally stopped by Carlos Leal 10 months ago. I feel like we're in a situation where maybe Daniil doesn't have the same kind of physicality and that pressure that a Carlos Leal brings to the table. But I was saying, I know Morono's got kind of this weird iCarly looking style with his hands. He's kind of just dancing around real weird and just kind of throwing these pitter-patter shots. And he is the guy that's been around for a while. So maybe he weaponizes his experience, deals with some early adversity, drags it out, and maybe finds a way. But I don't know, man. It's hard to see given what we saw from Daniil on Tough, where he was beating up on dudes, man. He's got nasty boxing, really good in close. His kicks are fast. He is a dangerous dude. I think he comes out here with a point to prove, and I think he's going to knock out Alex Morono in round number one. I almost said Brandon Moreno. I think he's going to knock out Alex Morono in the first round. And if he doesn't do it in the first round, I think it'll come in the second round. I see Donchenko getting a knockout here. I just don't think Morono is dangerous enough. He doesn't have anything that scares Donchenko other than experience, other than the fact that he really doesn't get tired. I think Daniil's going to go after him with a point to prove in this big opportunity here. I think he goes out here, runs him over, puts the beats on him, and ends up knocking him out in the first round. Daniil, very explosive, very fast. He's a ferocious striker on the feet, man. I think he's going to be a problem for years to come in the welterweight division. Give me Donchenko by brutal first-round knockout. Next, we got Dustin Jacoby versus Julius Walker. I don't love this fight for Julius Walker, man. I don't like this fight for Julius Walker. And when you talk about one of the sloppiest fighters in the UFC, I feel like it's Julius Walker. I just don't think he's particularly good at anything. I mean, ever since he came into the UFC, right, comes in, and I think that this might have been on short notice against Alonzo Menefield, and it was a split decision. This was such a bad fight. Like, him and Menefield were dog-tired. They were leaning on each other up against the fence. Like, he just gets into these chaotic clinch fest where he's like pushing you up against the fence, landing these short shots in close. He's got no defense on the feet whatsoever. His ground game seems to be pretty decent, right? We saw that in his most recent fight against Rafael Sygula, but Rafael is awful. Like, he's a guy that shouldn't even be in the UFC. He's someone that the UFC is handing to literally build prospects. And Rafael, I don't even think has a single win in the UFC. I don't even know if he's still in the UFC. He's basically a moving heavy bag, and Julius Walker went the distance with him. A guy that was getting knocked out by everybody, Julius Walker was getting tired and battling these moments where he was getting kind of hit on the feet by Rafael, and I'm like, what? Like, I don't know, man. I don't like what I've seen from Julius Walker. I know he's got a gas tank, right? Even when he gets tired, he finds a way to push through it. I just think he's a very sloppy fighter that's not particularly great in any single area. And I know Dustin Jacoby's 37 years of age, but this dude's got a ton of experience, right? Former Glory kickboxer, tons of kickboxing experience, right? And what we've seen from Dustin Jacoby, I know he's lost to Alonzo Menefield, and I get it. Walker, had the close fight with Menefield, Dustin Jacoby was outstriking Alonzo Menafield. It was the fact that Menafield would land one big shot and that would change the course of the round, right? But he was outscoring him for the most part. Sticking and moving, finding those shots. It was just the power of Menafield was giving him some issues, right? And then he gets knocked out by Dominic Reyes. But that's Reyes, right? Reyes would knock out Julius Walker in the first round. Then he goes out there and brutally KOs Vitor Petrino and is coming off of, a KO 7 months ago against Bruno Lopez. Dustin Jacoby is the far better striker in this matchup. He's got good footwork. He switches stances very, very well. He's very technical. I think he's going to put the jab in Walker's face. He's going to cut really good angles. I think his timing and his footwork is going to give Walker a lot of problems in this fight. And I think it's going to lead to a knockout. I think Dustin Jacoby is going to end up knocking out Julius Walker in this fight. And I'll say it happens in the second round. Maybe it happens in the first, right? Maybe Julius Walker, he just kind of turns this into a slop fest, pushes Jacoby up against the fence, takes him down, is able to bank minutes on the ground. I know Dustin Jacoby is not known for having a great ground game. He has trained his whole career knowing that people are going to try to take him down because he's a good striker. And Julius Walker doesn't have power on the feet. He doesn't really have any power. His ground game's not that great. He's just kind of an athletic dude that just kind of moseys forward into range, doesn't move his head whatsoever. His striking defense, I think, is going to let him down in this fight. Now, again, that forward pressure, that sloppiness, that clinch game, could that wear on Dustin Jacoby to eventually maybe allow Walker to control him and win minutes and steal this fight? Sure, that could happen. But I think Dustin Jacoby's too much of a sniper on the feet, too advanced on the feet for Walker here, and I think his takedown defense is going to be good enough to where even if he gets taken down, I think he pops right back up. I think he does a good job stopping the takedowns. I think he's going to pressure Walker, make it easier to see the shots coming. Dustin Jacoby's going to chop away at the lead leg, mix things up. He's just way too advanced on the feet for a guy like Julius Walker. And I know, he had the close fight with Alonzo Menafield and, this and that. Styles make fights. Dustin Jacoby's a pinpoint striker. He's accurate. He's going to be operating at a very different level on the feet than Julius Walker. I think this is Dustin Jacoby's fight all day long. I don't like this matchup for Julius Walker. And like I said, Walker, even when he gets tired, he pushes through the fatigue and makes things happen. His gas tank's not great. He's got a lot of holes on the defensive side of things with the striking. He doesn't really have any power. A little bit of a submission game, decent grappling. I don't think it's good enough to trouble Dustin Jacoby. I think he's getting beat up in this fight. Give me Dustin by second round KO. Next, we got Jean Matsumoto versus Farid Basharat. Love this fight. This is a really good fight here. Two really good prospects in the bantamweight division. I think Farid Basharat is one of those guys that is just really on the cusp of getting into the rankings. He is a really well-rounded fighter. He is the better of the Basharats, by far. Right, what we've seen from Farid, he's been very impressive to me. Right, going out there and controlling Damon Blackshear, who's got a really solid ground game almost 3 years ago. Right, beating Rodriguez, subbing him on the floor. Right, beating Taylor Lappy loose, getting the victory over Victor Hugo, and most recently going out there and beating Chris Gutierrez, where what we've seen from Basharat is he will stick and move from the outside. Both Basharat brothers fight very, very similar. It's just the fact that I think Farid is quite a bit quicker, mixes things up better, and I think is quite a bit better on the ground. And I think his fight IQ is really, really good, right? And I think in this fight, he knows that he's got to be all the way in or all the way out, right? Sitting at range, throwing those front kicks up the middle, straight boxing combinations down the pipe. And whenever Jean Matsumoto gets overly aggressive, those are going to be the times where I think Basharat can dip underneath and take him down. Because while we've seen, Matsumoto's a good striker. He's got good Muay Thai, good boxing on the inside, nasty leg kicks, likes to put pressure on his opponents. And we've seen he's looked really good in the UFC, man. Like, coming off the Contender Series, gets the job done against Tanner, subs Dan Argueta. That was very, very impressive. Beats Brad Katona, loses to Rob Font in a split decision, but that was a really close fight. A really close fight against the veteran Rob Font, who's got really, really good boxing, right? And then beats Miles Johns in another very, very close fight. I think this fight's going to be close. I think it's going to be close once again. If Jean Matsumoto can get to the inside, rip calf kicks, work at those, skinny legs of Basharat, hinder his movement, start to get to his boxing, I think Matsumoto can get it done. But I think Basharat's fight IQ is going to be the difference in this fight. I think that Farid is going to land some solid shots from range, and I think that he's going to time some good takedowns and be able to control Matsumoto on the floor for some minutes, man. Because one of the problems about Matsumoto, he's got a solid ground game and some pretty good jiu-jitsu, but he accepts the bottom position a little bit too much. And if you do that in a fight where it's going to be very close in terms of the striking on the feet, and then it's going to come down to, some control time and Basharat being able to neutralize you with the grappling, I feel like that's what's going to get Matsumoto into some trouble in this fight. Now, if Jean can get to the inside and work his game, I think that he could definitely get this done. But I've been very high on Farid Basharat, man. I think he's very good. He's got good kicks, switches stances well, attacks the lead leg well, those front kicks up the middle, good straight boxing combos down the middle, and his ground game is very, very good as well. It's not like when he takes guys down that he's just, holding them and doesn't know how to submit people. Like, Basharat's got a good submission game. Right, so he's definitely a threat if he could get Matsumoto down to where if Matsumoto tries to recklessly scramble, I could definitely see Farid locking in some sort of submission here. But I'm not sure that happens. I think Basharat sticks and moves from range, keeps him at bay, mixes in some of the grappling to win some minutes, and I think that he gets this done in a close one over Matsumoto. Give me Basharat 29-28 over Jean Matsumoto. Really good matchup here. Next, we got Michal Oleksiejczuk versus Marc-Andre Barrieu. Whew. This is a barn burner. This is a car crash waiting to happen. I'm going Michal Oleksiejczuk by a first-round knockout. And this just comes down to the fact that Marc-Andre Barrieu, his defense is awful. He's got no head movement. He loves to pressure guys up against the fence. He's got some power of his own. Right in his last fight against Shara Bullet, he was landing some big shots on Shara and stinging him up. But at the end of the day, he got outscored. But we know Shara, he's a fun striker, but he's really overrated, man. Like, I like Shara Bullet. He's fun to watch, but very, very overrated. Then he goes out there and starches Bruno Silva with devastating elbows, man. Absolutely violent, right? But before that, we saw him get, destroyed by Dustin Stoltzfus, brutally KO'd by Joe Pyfer, lost a close one to Chris Curtis. This, to me, just comes down to the fact that Michal he's got really good boxing. He's powerful. He moves really, really well. And I don't think that he's just going to stand right in front of Marc-Andre, where that's where Barrieu just kind of marches you down, pushes you up against the fence, gets in close, and starts to throw his shots, right, where he can get the elbows going, the big power shots in close. I just don't think he's going to be able to make that happen against Michal Oleksiejczuk, because if you look at Michal's losses, okay, got subbed by Michel Pineda. Not the greatest look. Right, got subbed by Kevin Holland, but dropped him, right? Dropped him with a big shot. Goes out there, loses to Nurmagomedov, got outstruck, but then he's coming off of 2 back-to-back wins, right? Starches Cedric Dumas and then brutally KOs Gerald Meerschaert. I think it's going to be one of those cases where Marc-Andre is just kind of moseying into range, trying to put the pressure on him, and then Michal is going to time a shot. Oleksiejczuk's got good boxing, man. His brother's really good as well. They got good striking. I think Michal's boxing is going to be the difference in this fight. I don't think we really see any grappling. Going to be a striking fight. It's going to be a head-on collision. I'm going to go with the more technical guy that's got the pinpoint accuracy in Oleksiejczuk here, and I think he's going to land a missile and knock out Marc-Andre in the very first round. Give me Michal to get it done. Next, we got Jailton Almeida versus Rizvan Kuniev. This is an interesting fight, man. This is an interesting fight because I've been very critical of Jailton Almeida. I think he has all the skills in the world to be one of the more troubling heavyweight grapplers that we've ever seen. He's really fast. If he wants a takedown, he pretty much always gets it. We've seen on the feet, he does have kind of underrated striking. It's not pretty, but we've seen that he could definitely hurt guys, right? We saw that against Sergey Spivak, where he was able to, get the stoppage there, right? Went out there, submitted Alexander Romanov, laid on Derek Lewis for 25 minutes in Brazil. I picked Curtis Blades to knock him out in this fight. And the reason for that being, if Almeida cannot get his takedowns, it's almost like he starts to get discouraged. And he starts to, I don't know, it seems like we see this kind of change in energy from Jailton Almeida. And I know that he had, Blades pushed up against the fence. Almeida, just left his head on the outside. Blades started teeing off with some elbows and some hammer fists and was able to put him away. But most recently, he goes out there against Alexander Volkov, and I picked Volkov to win the fight. And I thought the judges were going to give it to Volkov, given the fact that Almeida once again took down Volkov and did absolutely nothing. He lands 0 ground and pound, man. He tried to do what he did in the Derek Lewis fight, literally lay on guys. That's all he wants to do. He treats it like it's just a straight wrestling match. Takes people down, holds them down, controls them, and just lays on guys. Doesn't even try to posture up and land ground and pound. And sometimes he goes out there like a bat out of hell, gets people down, gets an early submission, and gets you out of there. And when he does that, you're like, man, this is possibly a real contender in this division. And then there's other times he goes out there, can't get the submission, and then just lays on people. So do I think he's going to be able to take down Rizvan Kuniev? Absolutely. Now, is he going to be able to submit Rizvan Kuniev? That's what I don't know. Because if Almeida doesn't submit Rizvan, What we've seen from Kuniev was in his debut, I picked him to win this fight, and I thought he beat Curtis Blades. I thought this was a robbery. I thought he landed the more damaging shots. He was active on the feet. I thought he beat Blades. Right before that, he was over in the PFL, right? Got the KO on the Contender Series, was in the PFL for some time, over in Eagle FC. Obviously, Jailton Almeida has fought the better opposition. And I think if Almeida can hold down Kuniev and not take much damage on the feet, even if he doesn't land any ground and pound whatsoever, it's like the dude doesn't know that this is a fight. So we basically have a guy that's going to come in and just try to straight grapple the whole time and not land any damage versus Rizvan, who's actually going to try to fight and land some sort of damage. I'm going to pick Rizvan Kuniev to win this fight. I think he's going to win this fight by a decision. I'm going to pick him by decision here. And I think that this is going to be one of those scenarios where Jailton has success with the grappling. If he doesn't get the submission, he's just going to kind of lay on Kuniev. Kuniev will get back to the feet, land a few shots, and that is going to be the difference on the judges' scorecards. I think once again, it's going to be Almeida not landing any ground and pound. If he can't get the submission, we just see his body language start to shift. Now, maybe if there's a new Almeida that comes out here and he learns how to throw some ground and pound, then I definitely think he wins the fight. But Kuniev has shown his takedown defense is pretty good. Even when he gets taken down, he can pop right back up, and he's not a fat blob in the heavyweight division. Kuniev's got pretty good striking, man. Trains with Magomed Ankalaev. He's got solid striking, good kicks, good knees, solid boxing. If he could survive that early onslaught from Almeida and not get submitted, I really think that he can outstrike Almeida and land the more damaging shots, and maybe he gets a stoppage. Right? Because we've seen Almeida, if things don't go his way with the grappling and you can stuff the takedowns, we've seen guys like Curtis Blades be able to put him away. So I think we're looking at a scenario to where Almeida can win a majority of the grappling, land no damage, unless something changes, and all of a sudden he starts to throw some ground and pound. Maybe finds a submission, because we saw Blades take down Kuniev and get to the back. And if Almeida does that, he's going to get his hooks in. He's going to take the back and immediately threaten with a rear naked choke. But what we've seen from Kuniev has pretty good takedown defense. Even when he gets taken down, he gets back to his feet. I'm going to go with Kuniev here, man. I can't stand how Jailton Almeida goes in there and literally does not throw outside of, he'll start the fight, throw a front kick up the middle, few shots on the feet. He lands no damage most of the time whatsoever. And like I said, if he has a different attitude, takes him down, lands some ground and pound, has kind of this different energy here, then maybe Almeida does win. But I'm going to side with Kuniev because he's actually going to come in here and look to fight, while Almeida, from what we've seen, he's going to come in here and look to just straight grapple. And if he can't get that submission, he lands no damage, and I could just see the judges giving it to Kuniev, given the fact that he will be the one landing the more damaging shots. And I don't know that Almeida is going to be able to control him on the floor for 15 minutes. Give me Kuniev. But I wouldn't be shocked if Almeida wins, because his ground game is really good, man. All right, co-main event, we got Amir Albazi versus Kyoji Horiguchi. This is a good fight here, right? I'm a massive Kyoji Horiguchi fan, right? He was, I believe, 7-1 in the UFC before he left. Well, was over in Ryzen, Bellator, bouncing around, fighting literally everybody, right? And in the UFC, he was really, really good the first time around, right? His only loss was Demetrius Johnson, and I think that was a title fight, right, to where he got submitted late in the fight. And outside of that, Kyoji Horiguchi, like, he's one of the best strikers in the flyweight division. He's got that karate style, darts in and out of range, his ground game is solid, good submission skills, comes back into the UFC, and I'm pretty sure he was an underdog in this fight, and I picked him to beat Tagir Ulanbekov. He went out there, and I thought the fight was going to be kind of close. He destroyed Tagir, dude. Destroyed him. Beat him up on the feet, controlled him, dominated him on the ground, and then was ultimately able to submit him. Kyoji's the real deal, and he is a win away here from getting another top fight in this weight class and then possibly fighting for the flyweight title once again. And then on the other side, you have Amir Albazi, who's been banged up. He's been dealing with some injuries, right? We haven't seen him in a little while, right? He fought Brandon Moreno, got outclassed on the feet, got picked apart from range. But Brandon Moreno is one of the better strikers that we've seen in the flyweight division. Really, really good boxing, right? And before that, he was on a crazy win streak. I thought he lost this fight to Kai Kara France, right? Finished Alessandro Costa with some nasty uppercuts, right? That's what we've seen from Amir Albazi. Good boxing in the pocket, solid wrestling, does have a good submission game, but it's really the inside boxing and the wrestling that gets it done for Amir Albazi. I think this is one of those fights where Amir is going to look to grapple very, very heavy, because if they get stuck playing this back and forth striking battle and you're allowing Kyoji to dart in and out, Kyoji, to me, is the clear faster fighter in this matchup. He's got really nasty calf kicks. I can see Kyoji attacking the lead leg of Albazi. It's going to make it harder for him to be able to shoot on those takedowns, going to make it harder for him to operate on the feet. If Albazi can land some good shots in close and maybe sting Horiguchi, take him down, control him on the ground, like that to me is the path to victory for Albazi. Is he going to be able to do that against Kyoji? I'm not so sure, man. I'm going to side with Kyoji Horiguchi once again, and I think that he is going to win a decision here. I think he's going to have the output on his side. He's got the speed on the feet, the diverse striking attack, and his ground game, it's pretty good. He's got a good submission game. While his, we've seen him taken down, and we've seen him have some issues on the ground in past fights. I just feel like there's a big discrepancy on the feet. I know Albazi's boxing is decent, especially if he can get to the inside, but we've seen like Cachoeira France, if you can utilize good footwork, good movement from range. I just see Horiguchi utilizing good movement, sticking and moving from the outside, darting in and out, landing some of those good shots. You got to be careful doing that, right? Throwing that little karate blitz into range because then Albazi can duck underneath and take down Horiguchi. And I think if Albazi gets on top, Kyoji might have a hard time getting back to his feet. So if Albazi wins this fight, lands some good shots with the boxing in close, takes down Kyoji, controls him on the floor, maybe finds a submission, but I'm not so sure about that, man. I think Kyoji, I'm a massive Kyoji fan, man. He was really good the first time around in the UFC. He's an absolute legend. His striking is really good. He's got a good submission game. His takedown defense has historically been really good. I think his striking and his speed is going to be a little bit too much for Amir Albazi in this fight. Well, I don't think Kyoji has the boxing of Brandon Moreno. He's got the speed and that kind of karate-like style that I think is going to give Albazi some issues. I think Kyoji's going to bust him up on the feet, and the speed is going to be on display. Give me Kyoji Horiguchi to get it done by a decision. All right, last but not least, we have our main event of the evening, and if you guys are enjoying this video, if you could do me a favor, please like the video, hype the video, and if you're new, if you could subscribe to the channel, I would greatly appreciate it. We have Mario Bautista versus Vinny Oliveira. Two guys that I don't really pick against, right? I think the only time that I've really picked against Mario Bautista that I can remember was against Umar Nurmagomedov. And that's Umar Nurmagomedov, right? One of the best bantamweights in the world. So now Mario Bautista, who was riding, I think it was, an 8 or 9 fight win streak prior to losing to Umar, was a guy that people were like, we just need him to get that big opportunity. And unfortunately, it was Umar, right? Because we know how good Umar is. But I think Mario's skill for skill is definitely a top bantamweight for sure. Like, I think he's a top 5 bantamweight skill-wise. But one of the things that we have seen throughout Mario Bautista throughout this win streak, I feel like it's a tad bit overrated, man. I feel like it's a tad bit overrated, right? Beat Damon Blackshear. I know that that's a good win. Damon Blackshear's a good grappler. Beat Ricky Simone, who's got some solid wrestling, right? Split decision win over Jose Aldo, where he just held him up against the fence, became, everyone, was so mad at Mario Bautista for this performance. Like, how could you do that to Jose Aldo, man? Everyone couldn't stand Mario Bautista. Then he goes out there, beats Patchy Mix, which a lot of people were picking Patchy in this fight. I said, no, man, Patchy's not taking him down. Mario's just going to pick and poke from range, and that's what we've seen from Mario, right? He's got a great gas tank. He's historically been pretty durable, good volume, good output. He's just a very well-rounded fighter, and he's got a pretty good submission game on the ground, right? Even though Umar clearly won this fight, Mario didn't make it that easy. Like, I know that Umar convincingly won the fight, but I felt like the rounds were a little bit closer than what people want to give it credit for. We saw Umar take him down, and he's going for some toe holds. Like, he's just throwing up all sorts of different things. Like, Mario's a dangerous guy, man. Like, I know he's went to a bunch of decisions recently, but he's a dangerous guy, right? I know he doesn't have a ton of pop in his hands, but he's got a good submission game. He's historically been pretty durable. He's got a really good gas tank. And we saw in the Umar fight, he threw that knee up the middle and was trying to time that high kick. So it's very much there that Mario can make some nice adjustments and good reads on what his opponent is doing, because we saw Umar starting to kind of slip that head off the center line. And so Mario started to throw that knee up the middle and then tried to throw the head kick right behind it. It's just the fact that, dude, Umar's elite. That's the bottom line. I think in this fight, Mario Bautista is the more well-rounded fighter. It just comes down to the fact of, do you think that Vinny Oliveira is going to be able to knock out Mario Bautista? Because over the course of 25 minutes, I don't know if Oliveira can just outscore Mario in a 25-minute fight. Maybe he can, right? Because the thing with Vinny is he's just a madman in there. He's chaotic. He's unorthodox. He switches stances, holds his hands very, very low, throws these big winging power shots, really good leg kicks, very, very unpredictable, flying knees, right? He's got a solid ground game of his own, good takedown defense, right? And his gas tank, I got a little bit of a question mark next to it. We've seen that he comes out, so like a bat out of hell so early, throwing so much into these shots that it tends to kind of slow him down a little bit. We see him push through it, but we haven't really seen him in a 5-round fight in the UFC. So I got some questions here, right? Because you're going in here against a very good fighter in Mario Bautista. And since coming into the UFC, right, got that devastating left hook over Madrigal on DWCS that got him the contract. That was violent, right? And then the Bernardo Sopai, I mean, threw that flying knee, and that was a crazy highlight reel KO, but Sopai was having some decent success in that fight before that, right? Then he goes out there, beats Ricky Simón. That's a good win, right? And again, I know Mario Bautista has a decision win, and I get it. Ricky Simón, like, decent on the feet, solid wrestler, you know, beats Said Nurmagomedov. That was a very good back-and-forth fight. That was a fun fight to watch. And then most recently beats Kyler Phillips. Oliveira, to me, has the power advantage in this fight. He has the chaos, he has the unpredictability, and maybe that gets it done for him in this fight. Because we've seen, while Mario Bautista is very good, he's not the most dangerous guy on the feet. He's more of a volume-based striker. He's technical, but I see those opportunities where if Vinny could get him in his face, back him up against the octagon side, start to let those big shots go. Maybe he can time a knee, throw an uppercut up the middle, land a big shot around the guard. I definitely think it's possible that Oliveira gets a knockout here. But I'm going to side with Mario Bautista to get this thing done by a decision. I think he's the more well-rounded fighter, and I think that in a 25-minute fight, I could trust Mario's gas tank. I trust his gas tank more than I trust Oliveira's, right? And I know Oliveira, like, even when he does, show signs of fatigue, he pushes through it, right? And I think that the power and the danger factor is definitely on the side of Oliveira. And the one thing about Oliveira, we've seen when he loses, those 3 losses, I think, are all by finish. He got knocked out on all those fights. And actually, I put my wrong thing here. I'm picking Mario Bautista by a round 4 submission. I think Oliveira may sting Mario early in this fight and hurt him. I think he might hurt him. I think he's going to have some success in the earlier rounds. But I think as this fight starts to play out, Mario's going to start to land with some more shots on the feet. We're going to see him eventually get to a trip, get to a takedown, and eventually catch Oliveira in a scramble as he starts to slow down a little bit. This is a big opportunity for Oliveira. His first 5-round fight in the UFC. He's got a ton of power. He's got all this output, throwing all these big shots. I just worry a little bit about his gas tank in this fight. And I think that Mario Bautista is one of the most well-rounded guys in this weight class. I think Mario's very, very good. Like I said, win streak, a little bit overrated. But by the same token, he's still really good. He's well-rounded. He's got a nasty submission game as well. I know that Oliveira's got good takedown defense. But as the fight starts to play out, I think that Oliveira will start to get a little bit more sloppy. That is going to leave some window of opportunity for Mario to get to the takedowns, land some more shots on the feet. I know Mario doesn't have a ton of power, but if you start to slow down, the output slows down, you start to get a little bit tired, those hands are really, really low, right? Oliveira is very hittable. Maybe Bautista sets up a knee, sets up a high kick. This is going to be fun to watch, man. This is going to be a very, very fun, action-packed main event. Both guys are really good. I've been picking them a lot. But I got to go with Mario Bautista here. I'm going to go with the more well-rounded fighter, the guy that I know has a good gas tank for 25 minutes, can push a pace, has the output to outscore Oliveira, right? Has the grappling in his back pocket. While I think Oliveira will stuff the early takedowns, I think Bautista will find some success later on in this fight. Maybe Mario just does win a decision. Maybe Oliveira lands the big KO. Maybe Oliveira wins a decision, shows that his gas tank is really good, lands the more damaging shots. But I'm going to side with Bautista here. I think that he's going to find some success with the grappling later on in the fight. Give me Mario with the experience and just the well-roundedness of Bautista here to get it done. But if you guys enjoyed this video, do me a favor. Please give it a like. Let me know what you think down in the comments. And don't forget to subscribe to the channel so you do not miss an upload. I would appreciate it. See you next time.